Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the moderator for this evening, Mr. Chris Bond, and he will take over from here.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Jack, very much. I am a resident of Franklin. I own a business in Franklin. I have no dog in any of these fights tonight. I am a business broker, meaning I help my clients sell their small businesses. So on a daily basis, I am negotiating conversations between sellers of businesses and buyers of businesses and working through every last detail, as you can imagine. And my main role is to get people to behave through those emotional roller coaster type discussions. So I think that's why I'm part of the program tonight. So our hope is, of course, is outstanding behavior. And we have Frank Cook and John Davis up first. Thanks everybody for being here. So if you watch the NFL or if you watch any kind of football, it starts with a coin toss. And they usually say the head looks like a head and the tail looks like a tail. So I hope you'll take my word on that. I will toss the coin. I will ask the fine gentleman to my left, I suppose. Would you mind calling it in the air?
Sure.
Okay, great. Whew.
Tails.
And it is heads. So that means you get to start, Mr. Challenger. And I think that means you're going to open with some kind of statement, yes?
We're allotted 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Right, 4 minutes for statement.
Is there a timekeeper?
Yeah, Jack's going to play that role.
Oh, okay. All right. We ready to begin?
Please.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber and everyone who put on this evening's event. My name is John Davis, and I'm running to be the Ward 3 City Councilman. Many of you may remember me as the former Ward 5 City Councilman. 3 years ago, my wife and I bought the house where she grew up on Lindsay Street, and we're now residents of Ward 3. A lot of my new neighbors and friends had encouraged me to get back into local politics. I've always been involved in the community in many ways through charitable and nonprofit volunteer activities, and for several years on the planning board and then the city council. I enjoy being actively involved in making our community a better place for us all to live. For the last 4 months, I've been out there going door to door, talking to people, including many of the people in this room, about why I feel that they should choose me to represent them as their city councilman for the next 2 years. As we all know, the ward councilman is the person that the local neighbors go to when they have a problem, an issue, or a challenge. Many of the people I've encountered had difficulty dealing with the present councilman related to issues of traffic, as on Holden Street when they were going to run hundreds of trash trucks down Holden Street, issues when they wanted to put up solar panels literally right behind people's backyards. I've heard endless stories from people who have said to me, we'd like to finally have a councilman who we'd actually get to meet. He's been my councilman for 14 years and I haven't met your opponent. I'm a person who wants to get out there face to face with individuals who have challenges. It's easy to get local officials to come to a parade, but it's hard to get them to come to your house and sit down with you face to face when you have a problem. Your local councilman is the one who you go to when your neighborhood has a local issue. And I want to be the person that people can feel comfortable going to. I may not agree with everyone on everything, and there may sometimes be nothing that I can do other than be an ear for them to vent to or direct them to someone who can help them. But I'll be there. People who know me know that I've always been responsive to anyone who's ever called me with an issue, anyone who's ever come to my house to talk to me about a problem. And I really would like the opportunity to represent a new section of the community to me. You know, I love being the Ward 5 City Councilman, and I think just about everyone in the ward at some point there had the opportunity to meet me. Now, some of them may have liked me and some may have not, but no one would ever say that I didn't try to do the best I could for our community. We've seen in Washington what happens when politics becomes so polarized, where we start labeling people and picking sides. You know, it's not about what political party you belong to. It's about helping our friends and family and neighbors to make our community a better place for us all to live. We've seen what happens in Washington when we start getting all caught up with labeling people as being this or that. You know, I see neighbors who won't speak to each other because they belong to different political parties. I find that hard to believe. But we've seen the results of what happens when we start calling people names rather than saying, look, we're all part of Attleboro. I lived here my whole life. And since I was a little kid, I've done everything I could to make this a better place. And as long as I live here until the day I die, I'm going to continue to try to make Attleboro the best place for each and every one of us. Whether you've lived here for 3 generations or whether you moved in yesterday, you can know that I'm going to be there when you need someone to talk to. How much time I got left, Jack?
30 seconds.
All right. You know, there are lots of issues in our ward. You know, I mean, there is a tremendous amount of development that is taking place and is going to take place in the next couple of years. And that's what you have to remember, is that we're electing someone for 2 years. This position isn't something like the Supreme Court where you get life tenure. One of the difficulties, I think, is that people get in these positions for far too long and they start to feel comfortable as if it's all about them. Thank you all.
Before Mr. Cook replies, I hope it goes without saying that folks would have their phones turned off and they'd be polite and not whispering or making any noise. Is that a fair thing to ask of the audience tonight? The only sound we should hear is Jack's bell when 4 minutes are up. Mr. Cook.
Thank you. As we begin this evening, I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Sun Chronicle for hosting tonight's political forum. But most importantly, I want to thank my fellow Ward 3 residents for allowing me to serve as your representative on the City Council. I greatly appreciate this opportunity and am ever mindful of the tremendous responsibility that comes with this office. This term, and especially the last few months, have been exceptionally busy and exciting. As I've knocked on doors and talked with residents during this campaign season, I've been impressed with the enthusiasm and the renewed sense of can-do for our city. No finer example of the pride which is accompanying Attleboro's renaissance can be seen than that which was displayed at the rededication of the Toja Cassidy Field on September 20th. Blue pride is alive and well, not only at Attleboro High School, but throughout our city. We're finally starting to witness the results of years of downtown revitalization planning. The new intermodal transportation center will open on November 7th. Across the street from this transportation hub, the Renaissance Station, which is a condominium retail store complex, will soon be added to the city's skyline. The nearby Department of Public Works yard will be relocated, allowing for the development of a new park and passive recreation opportunities adjacent to the 10-Mile River. In other parts of the city, we've seen the opening of the dog park, as well as walking trails at the Nickerson Woods off of Richardson Avenue in Ward 3. And still to come is a new Attleboro Animal Shelter and the recently announced $21 million sports complex at the Industrial Business Park. As the City Council President, I have provided leadership in guiding these projects and other issues through the legislative process. This has involved countless meetings and hours of attention to detail. The votes that I have cast in support of these projects benefit not only the city, but also Ward 3. This rebirth has not come easy, and my job is not yet finished. And in the coming years, with your vote, I will see that this progress continues. Yet despite the additional responsibilities of being the council president, I am first and foremost your Ward 3 councilor. I have never forgotten that I serve only because of you, the citizens of Ward 3. I remain experienced, engaged, and enthusiastic because of your support. During this term, the single most important action I took was introducing the resolution which ultimately led to the addition of the Walton and Lonsberry site on North Avenue to the EPA Superfund list. My heart goes out to you, the residents of this part of Ward 3, and I remain committed to continue to work on your behalf to ensure a resolution of this environmental problem. However, as your ward councilor, I have learned that the issues that most directly impact are personal and they rarely make the news. I have answered your early morning calls about dirty water or low water pressure. I've answered calls about snow-blocked hydrants, road conditions, speeding traffic, and rubbish which wasn't picked up. I've been at the DPW yard and the emergency center during severe storms. I've ridden Ward 3 streets with the snowplow drivers and stood with Ward 3 residents during floods. I came to the other boards, such as ZBA, with the residents of Ward 3 when the solar panel issue became a major issue. And while I've worked on resolving these concerns, at the same time I realize that these are as important as the challenges we face in trying to revitalize our city. In closing, I want to thank you, the residents of Ward 3, for the honor and the privilege that you have given to me to represent you on the City Council. And on Tuesday, November 5th, I respectfully ask that you cast your vote for Frank Cook for Ward 3 City Councilor. Thank you, and may God bless our nation and our city.
One quick question for the candidates. Should umpires be able to overrule calls during the game?
I didn't realize you were doing questions.
He's just joking.
Just kidding.
I was curious. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So next up, representing, or candidates for Ward 4.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
You too.
I work at Franklin.
Oh, you do?
Franklin High School.
Good to know. I got 2 kids there.
Really?
Yeah.
You're lucky, too.
Thanks.
We have Jonathan Waite and Catherine Homefield.
Catherine,
Catherine?
yes.
Thank you very much.
Call me Kathy.
Kathleen, okay. All right, so we'll do the same thing. Kathleen, would you mind calling the coin in the air? Heads or tails?
Heads.
All right. Let's try that again. Right into the lights. Heads it is.
Heads it is.
So thank you very much. 4 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Kathleen Hofeld, but please call me Kathy. My family and I have been living here since 2000. I am very proud of the friends I have met, made, and the knowledge and accomplishments that they have achieved. My working background is from MIT, Boston University, Roger Williams, and URI. I am president of a high-tech research and development company that is named Wavelet Technologies Incorporated. My husband, Dr. Robert Hofeld, and I made this into a corporation in 1996. My platform is to try to bring industry back into Attleboro. We have many buildings that are not being used for industrial space, and I know as a fact from the people I've talked with that they would rather work closer to home as opposed to working into the going into the cities. I realize this will be a hard challenge, but I'm willing to try my best for our community. At this point in time, we are at a 9.7 unemployment rate. The council has made efforts to bring new business to Attleboro to their complement, but thus far none of this has been in the high-tech sector. High-tech business is a traditional mainstay in the Massachusetts economy. I will use my connections to reach out to the industrial liaison offices of MIT, Brown, BU, and other area universities to try and bring startup companies to rejuvenate, to make it better for Attleboro. I will also work with like-minded counselors to build and enhance the business environment in Attleboro. On other points, Ward 4 voters do not feel secure in their homes and properties. Ward 4 has had a rash of break-ins of houses, of homes, and parked cars. Police Chief Hegney and I discussed this problem. The police have wonderfully been active and attentive about warning residents, and I thank them very much. However, they are stretched very thin, and the city is growing faster, and they need more necessary infrastructure and personnel. As counselor, I will strongly support our police and fire departments in their efforts to protect our city. Also, the roads in Ward 4 have become high-speed throughways. This is hazardous for all residents. On my street, which is Pike Avenue, there is no shoulder. This is fraught for students at bus stops and people walking, jogging, and on bikes. I will work to ensure for the safety that the traffic laws of Ward 4 are enforced for the safety of everyone. Many of the voters in Ward 4 feel that the City Council is out of touch with them and their needs. I do pledge to you that I will promptly return your phone calls, and I will hold hours so that you can speak to me in person about your concerns. And I thank you for listening, and I hope I can count on your vote. And the one last thing I want to say is, the more I've canvassed, many of you have been so kind and so wonderful. And there are a lot of concerns that people have. And so I will keep them in my heart and in my mind. and try to do the best for Attleboro. And I'm trying to give back to Attleboro as much as it gave back to me.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Please.
sir. Before I stop my 14 minutes, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Sun Chronicle for hosting this event this evening.
You said 14 minutes or 4?
I was trying. Okay, I couldn't sneak that one by you. But good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for attending this evening. You know, the very fact that you're here tonight it tells me that you care about this city, and you want to make sure that I care about it as much as you do. So during my first term, I've been a very passionate advocate for the city and Ward 4. One example is a very popular and wildly successful farmers market. Last year, the future of the farmers market was very, very dim. A vote was taken by the Attleboro City Council that was so restrictive to the farmers market that it threatened its very existence here in the city. I immediately filed for reconsideration from the City Council from that vote, and armed with new information, I managed to convince my fellow ward councilors, my fellow councilors, to rethink their stance on the issue. Had I not done this, this farmers market would have had to possibly relocate to a neighboring community. Not only now do we have a thriving farmers market, but an entire new venue. And ironically, the Attleboro Farmers Market now calls Finberg Field in Ward 4 its home. And I'm very proud and happy of that. After the farmers market reconsideration, a very serious issue was emerging at home, in our ward, in our neighborhood. It came to light that the Attleboro landfill on Peckham Street in Ward 4 was planning to reopen. The plan called for over 100,000 tons of contaminated material to be trucked into our ward over a period of 3 to 5 years, 6 days per week. The plan also called for Pike Avenue, Pleasant Street, Peckham, and Holden Streets to be opened up as an ongoing truck route for massive 18-wheel vehicles. I immediately organized an unprecedented ward meeting hosted by myself and at-large Councilor Richard Conti. The meeting included a PowerPoint presentation, questions, answers, discussion on the issue, and it was very clear to me that the residents of Ward 4 wanted this project stopped. With the help of the Ward 4 residents, local, state officials, and the non-stop lobbying to the Department of Environmental Protection from that seat over there, we're successful at stopping this project. As your Ward 4 councilor, I will continue to do everything in my power to see that nothing like this ever happens again. I want to make sure the landfill remains closed and the neighborhoods in the area and every other area of the city remain safe from chemicals, pollution, traffic, and noise. Now, I've been outspoken on other issues, such as National Grid's emergency response to our ward. I've had many conversations with National Grid officials, and I have let them know our problems in Ward 4, that they need to be resolved, and progress is being made in that area. I have also helped to resolve the New Stream issues of the noxious odors permeating the surrounding neighborhoods. I addressed the issue of hunting, ATVs, and the protection of our conservation land. We've come a long way in all these issues, but more work needs to be done. I'm starting to feel a little temperature rise around Pike, Lilac, Orchard, and Astor Streets. Those areas, I want to make sure that the Springdale Ave project goes smoothly. It's very important. Regarding public works, we need sidewalks on Emery, Bishop, Maple Streets. We need to figure out how to get more street light over the steeplechase. And of course, acceptance in postal service for Coleman Ave. These are examples of my ward priorities, and these are also the day-to-day issues that affect very real people in very real ways. Of course, having a top-notch educational system in Attleboro and giving our students and teachers the tools and assets they need to succeed is always high on my priorities list. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Okay, rumor has it there are 6 folks running for 5 at-large seats. Do I have that correct? Can we have those 6 folks come forward? And please don't use the end seats. Please come close to the center.
Grab your sign when you're coming up, please. Steve, if you want to go there.
Very good.
I'm sorry, Rick Foster, Chris Bond.
Hey, how's it going?
Boyd.
Come on, how are you?
Steve Peters.
How's it going? Nice to meet you as well, Chris.
If you, Mr. Conte, if I can sit next to you, huh?
Good practice.
This is what it looks like.
That's what it looks like.
Stephen? And you guys are from the same paper?
Yes, no, from the Sun Chronicle.
Okay, so we have Rick and Steve from the Sun Chronicle. They are our panelists. They will be asking questions, rotating. There's an order here, believe it or not, to how these things are going to go. So, Rick, if you don't mind, we're going to call you panelist number 1. How's that sound?
Sounds fine to me.
Okay, so for this first round, we're going to go 1 through 6. So, if you don't mind, why don't we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Does that sound fair? Okay, so fire away.
All right, thank you very much. Attleboro has a split tax rate, which taxes commercial properties at a higher rate than residential ones. That's been revised from time to time. Do you favor a further revision of the separate residential and commercial property tax rates? And what is your opinion with regard to a single tax rate for the entire city of Attleboro?
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Ron Churchill. I'm a candidate at large. To answer that question, over the years of watching the council debate this question over and over again, I have found that over the years, no matter what they've done, we haven't been able to attract business, and I don't know if the tax rate has any bearing on that. And I'm sure that that's been pondered by people not more intelligent than I am. But at this point in time, I favor it to be the same for business and as well as residential.
I'll stay seated. My name is Richard Conti. I think that a split tax rate is patently undemocratic, unfair, and should be illegal. But it was passed in Massachusetts to satisfy Proposition 2.5, and in Attleboro, for 30 years, we've abused it at its maximum 1.5% to businesses. It's now at 1.35. People out in the streets while I'm campaigning are telling me that it's time to shut the checkbook, that their taxes went up 3.5% last year and their incomes did not. So I'm thinking that maybe it's time to slow down the way that we change that split tax rate. And instead of aggressively trying to get it down to one tax rate in 3 years, maybe it should take a slightly long period of time. Those conclude my comments.
A quick reminder to the group, those that think they're speaking quietly, I can hear you all the way up here. So if you could be respectful of the process and of what we're trying to do here, and don't do distracting things for the folks that are up here on the hot seat, I'm sure everybody would appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Jay DeLucio. I'm an at-large city councilor. Tax classification has become something annually that we address in the same way we addressed budget capital improvement. And when we think about how are we building an environment where small businesses want to continue to invest in Attleboro's future, taxes are definitely something that we have to keep an eye on. We have to make sure that we're controlling spending. We have to make sure that we're bringing a tax rate which is going to continue to encourage businesses to want to come and invest in Attleboro's future. When I think about would we like to get into a single tax rate, the answer is yes, in a perfect world. But right now, we're not in a perfect world. Right now, we're living in a reality where businesses are closing their doors. Businesses aren't coming to Attleboro at the rate we want them to. And we have to take a look and we have to figure out why. I think taxes are a big part of them. I think the fact that we did lower the tax classification rate last year from 1.5 to 1.35 is certainly a step in the right direction. And I think it's up to us to continue to investigate that to find out really what is the best course of action to continue to attract businesses to Attleboro. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming this evening. My name is Peter Blair. I'm an at-large councilor for the past 7 terms. I have been an advocate of lowering the taxes for the small businesses in this town since I took a seat here 14 years ago. Taxes do make a difference. I was a small businessman for 50 years, in the city, and I know the effect. We do have a dual rate. We can't do away with it all at once, but I think we're moving in the right direction, and I've been an advocate of that my entire tenure on this council. We made a move last year to decrease taxes to business. I think it helped. I honestly believe that we have the mayor has had a commission established to look into it. I'm anxiously looking forward to their conclusions, and I will continue to be an advocate for small businesses in town.
Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Brian Kirby, running for re-election to the City Council. The tax rate. Many years ago, we started looking at and moving towards reducing the tax on businesses, going from the 1.5. And we did it in 3 small segments over 3 years, 2.5% per year. Last year, we made a big jump. We moved 7.5% in 1 year. Jack Lang gave us a standing ovation here when we did that. We took a real bite out of some of the pain that businesses have been feeling. And yet, so now we're down at 1.35%, and I can see us continuing to decrease the burden on the business side without overburdening the issues and the taxes on the city side, on the residential side. We need to do this on a slow, progressive way, a slow, step by step, without anyone feeling more pain. Because whenever you take a huge bite, the other side feels like they've been disproportionately hit. So we need to take careful steps. It's the right of every city council who sits here every single year to look at tax rate and to see where it's going to affect the population at that time. Are there large businesses that that change the tax rate on the business side? Are there huge developments that would change it on the residential side? This is a vote that must come down to each individual council, and it's the right and the obligation of each councilor to know these issues and to be able to vote on these. I've been lucky enough for the last 6 years to be chairman of the Budget Appropriations Committee, and I'm proud to say that I recommended that 7.5% reduction for businesses to move that forward for the businesses. It's going to take time to bring businesses in, but it's taking its effect. We're moving it forward, and I'm very proud of the way that we've moved forward in the last 10 years. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heather Parika, and I'm a candidate for council at large. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the Chamber and to the Chronicle for hosting us here tonight. It's an honor for me to sit in the U, and I'm interested to, this is what it looks like. I sit out there every week and watch, so this is a nice change for me. I've done some research on the tax classification, and I was lucky enough to read a report that was put together by a group of wonderful committee members who are Jim Castro and Bill Larson, Nancy Young, and a couple other gentlemen. And they're a distinguished and bright group of local business owners who have unique talents and abilities to shed light on what I would describe as one of the biggest challenges the council face, usually every November. To be honest, I need to learn more and to develop a better opinion. And to do that, it includes talking to you, the constituents, to business owners in our local area, and to together try and form a great way to solve this issue. It's very important. Thank you.
Okay, so Stephen's going to take the next piece, and we'll just go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Does that make sense? A bit of a Ferris wheel approach. Take it away.
What would you do to bring more customers to the downtown area?
Mr. Conti?
I think the greatest problem facing downtown Attleboro is the overall economic environment of Massachusetts and the United States. I had a meeting this week earlier with the controller, and we were talking about what would I do if I were magically empowered. And I would like to see small businesses be given a lot of leniency and encouragement in the city of Attleboro. And this comes from what I've seen in the farmer's market, where people making soap in their kitchen have grown into a company. So I'd like to see the city with, I'd like to see us pass the no personal property tax for businesses over less than $2,000 that was introduced to the council last week. I would like the city to consider a small business tax exemption. I would like to see the city community development block grants be favored to smaller businesses. And I'd like to see companies who employ 1 to 5 employees have a ombudsman inside City Hall that would help them navigate the various permits and procedures and city red tape that comes along with opening up a business inside the city of Attleboro. Through these measures, I think that we could probably encourage smaller businesses where I think the potential growth for downtown Attleboro is, recognizing that undercapitalized businesses fail quickly and there will be failures. So it's a numbers game, and I think the more we encourage it, the more we'll wind up successful. And that concludes my comment.
Thank you. I think we've made a lot of progress, and I want to be upfront about that, but I think there's still a lot more that we can do. Last December, I introduced a piece of legislation in front of this council to investigate how can we deregulate where we need to deregulate in some of the ordinances. Where can we streamline the processes for businesses that want to come and invest in Attleboro's future? This is something that's near and dear to my heart. As a vice president with the National Bank, I started out as a small business specialist. I've seen businesses that started up 10 years ago now close their doors because they can't make it. Why can't they make it? A lot of time it's taxes are too high, there's overregulation, there's fees. So when I think about what we can do, we have to start in our own backyard. We have to think about how can we get people to come downtown. And that's why last October I created and spearheaded Attleboro Restaurant Week to encourage businesses to open their doors and give discounted prices and menus so people would come down and eat locally. This is only step one. I'm glad to hear Mr. Conti say that he's in favor of small business ombudsman. That is something that I've had discussions with Mayor Dumas about, because I think it's essential that when businesses are starting up, they have someone who can walk them through the process. And finally, I think it's important that we have a business summit where we talk to some of the business owners who own or lease out the empty storefronts. Let's find out why. But I think it's time that we start to get moving on this. We've been talking about this for a long time, and now it's time to see some action on this. Thank you.
Thank you. As a small businessman, I ran a business on Pine Street for 50 years. To encourage people to come downtown, we've made the first step because we're cleaning it up and it's looking nice, and the downtown revitalization will draw people. We're on the right track. We've passed legislation on the council to allow residential apartments downtown to create foot traffic. The old days are gone, and we have to look for new ways and new means to get people to come downtown. We're on the right track with the downtown revitalization, and with some added incentives, tax-wise, people to help out at City Hall. I think we're making progress, and we have to continue that progress.
Well, with customers to the downtown, I think we need to do two things. I think we need to continue to support, as Mr. Blair said, the downtown development. But going further, once we have the businesses down there, we need to have show our support of those businesses. We need to show, and similar to Restaurant Week, we need to have Business Week. We need to be able to get into those businesses and with special coupons or whatnot, to be able to visit all the different businesses within the community and foster that type of business atmosphere. We need to celebrate that. We have businesses downtown. Most of these are mom and pop businesses who only employ a few people, who are trying to pay their own paycheck, trying to keep their own mortgage paid, trying to employ a few people. And these are the people we need to support the most. these local people. And by supporting the downtown development, supporting the upgrades that we've made downtown, and then supporting the businesses that we do get downtown, that's the way to go forward. It's multi-step, multi-pronged to be able to revitalize our downtown and revitalize all the business in the city. We can't forget South Attleboro. They need the support down in that area just as much as the downtown. It's a comprehensive city plan that we need to move forward with business within the entire city and foster that business within the city. Thanks.
It's my opinion that commerce and community are two of the main ingredients for success in any city. As the leader of the farmers market, I'm very pleased to say that we've been able to cultivate both. It is my hope that we can do that again as a blanket throughout the city. Everyone needs to know, our surrounding communities everywhere needs to know that Attleboro is open for business. You need to come here. We need to streamline the process for people who are willing to take the time and invest their lives here in Attleboro. It's a wonderful community. We have what it takes. We're on the right path. We just need to sell it. Thank you.
I agree with Heather on some of the issues. I've talked to some businessmen. I agree with Mr. Blair, too. I don't think downtown is ever going to be what it was. We need to make that a realistic view. But there's been a lot of rhetoric of what we need to do, and I've been listening to it for 26 years, and very little has changed. One of the problems is, I say, and I've talked to different businessmen, is not everybody's treated the same. And I agree with Heather. They have to come through the process where everybody is treated the same, whether you know somebody or don't know somebody. They know to get to A to Z, they have to do the same thing as everybody else. And I got a feeling some people don't think that's happening, and that's why they're afraid to come here.
Okay. Rick, for question number 3, and Mr. Delicio, you'll be starting.
Thank you. Do you feel that community development grants and loans have been effective tools in stimulating investment in small business in the downtown area? And what, if anything, would you propose to encourage business to come back, especially to some of the existing buildings where we see a lot of vacancies right now?
Yeah, I do. I believe in the community development block grants. I think we've seen a lot of success stories. When you think about what the idea of the community development block grant is, it's to be able to give that business the shot in the arm that they might need to really get established. When I think about how do we bring businesses back, for 2 years, I've supported a program called the 350 Project. And the 350 Project is really, it brings the community, it brings the businesses together in a way that says, take 3 businesses you'd hate to see leave the city. All you have to do is patronize each of those businesses, spend $50 amongst the 3. We have to build a community, build an environment where we're supporting locally owned businesses. We have tools here at the city. We have tools through the Chamber of Commerce. We have people who have been great success stories who have invested in this city, who will continue to invest in the city. Attleboro is open for business, but now we got to keep the doors open. We got to continue to think about how are we going to encourage small business growth. And the way we're going to do that is by getting out of the way and letting the businesses run their business. Let them grow their business. That growth is what's going to lead to job creation. And that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. The block grant program works probably 90% of the time, and we have a great director in the planning department that takes care of that. But I believe that the money should be distributed a little more evenly in downtown. I've been an advocate of making sure that the investments with the businesses that we give it to are substantial, and they're gonna make it. There's no sense of putting money into a business that's doomed. But the block grant money is very small in comparison to what we need. So to place it is a big job, and it needs a lot of oversight, and it has to be handled properly to make sure that it's given to businesses that can succeed. And if they succeed, the city succeeds.
Thank you. I've supported the community development block grant and the way it's been distributed. The and other grant programs. Last year, we received just about $1 million, and 3 different buildings were renovated or were started. Even the building next door, which now has retail on the bottom and apartments up top, has just come up for occupancy within the last month or so. All of which is grant money that was given to the city to foster development. Part of the community development block grant has a facade program, which has gone to improve the looks of buildings so that make them more enticing for people to come. And the property owners now can go to Gary Arasian's department and get the grant, to get the applications and go through the process to improve the facades of their buildings. Part of the problem was mentioned over there, that we have some absentee landlords who, they collect their check, and they're not really interested in seeing what goes on for the facade of their building, as long as they're getting paid. That's something that we do need to look at and see what we can do about changing the attitudes of some of the people who own some of the properties. But not all the properties are like that. Many of the properties have been repaired. Park Street Pizza was an empty real estate office for a number of years, and that went through the Community Development Block Grant. We've done some nice work with this, and it's a difficult process to figure out which is the best projects to go with. And even during the year, sometimes they come back and say, no, we stopped on that one didn't pan out. And we respect the decisions that they make, and they come to us for advice. It's been a good working relationship, and I enjoy the process that we go through going through the budgets, and it's a difficult decision when we go through the Community Development Block Grant. But I think it is a good program that does need to continue.
I agree. I agree, Brian. I think the Community Development Block Grant is a great program for the city. I would like to see perhaps maybe a more vigorous vetting of the recipients of the block grants. I think that we need to solidify and fortify our businesses downtown, not just financially, but educationally, and give them the support that they need to be successful. Again, it's a matter of who's coming to us looking for these grants, and are we out looking for people to take these grants? Again, I may sound repetitive, but we need to be selling Attleboro. We need to be going out, finding people, saying, we like your business. We're going to support your business. We're going to financially support your business. Come, do business. We will help you. And mean it. And be open, truly open for business. Thank you.
I'm going to steal some of your thunder, Heather.
Bring it.
Okay. Block grants have been around a long time. They had other names. It's federal money. It comes down through the government to share with the community. And I agree with Heather on several of their issues. But I think one of the issues is, again, like people coming into the community, there has to be some equity in how the grants are handed out. There has to be some accounting of, is it a loan? Are we getting paid back? How is this grant being used? Many communities have it written down in stone, and others do not. Some shoot by the, I think Attleboro's kind of in between. We need to have a more concrete method of loaning out the money and assuring that. And I'm not saying that Mr. Blair is wrong. It's hard to tell if a business is going to be successful or not, I think, but accountability helps produce stewardship, and I think if someone is accountable, either from the time they get the grant or till the time they go into business, it gives them more of a system to want to succeed, and I think you're right that block grants are important and they should be continued, but I think there needs to be more equity in how they're handed out and the responsibility on how they're being used.
Boy, there's a big advantage of being the last one to speak. Community developed block grants are controlled by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. They're not controlled by us. We have given guidelines on what the money is and how it is to be used, and the criteria for which applicants must meet in order to receive community development block grant money. The CDBG funds have been level funded for the last 2 years, and we've had great success with Sangrias and Scorpios and Park Pizza, and not so much with Caribbean Kitchen. That's the way of the world. But not all CDBG money goes to business. So it's a drop in a bucket compared to what needs to be done. And the question is a little deceiving because city councilors don't play a big role in how community development block grant monies are utilized. the city councils approve what the community development block grant program is, but we have no input on where that money is going to go. So, and we can't change that because it's set by United States Housing and Urban Development. I think that all of the attention the community development block grant gets is a little misdirected because it does not point to a major opportunity. It points to some opportunities for businesses in the city. But the best part of the community development block grant group is that they form their own bank. When you receive a loan from community development block grant, you have to pay it back, and the interest goes back into the fund for future block grants. And that's the best part, and that account now is well over 6 figures and growing by the day as the successes continue to contribute to the fund. And those concludes my comment.
Okay, very good. Jack, am I missing a page 2, or are we really almost done?
Well, we kind of skipped the opening statement from each of the councils. So we're going to give them a little bit extra time at the end.
Okay, I knew I missed something. Okay, so we'll do closing statements instead, is that fair?
We have time for another round of questions.
Right, and then we'll do closing statements at the end? Very good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so please, Stephen.
What would you do to see the old remaining mill buildings in the city that are unused or underutilized put to better use?
Peter?
The older buildings in Attleboro aren't really desirable for industry coming in. They have some inherent faults that don't necessarily fit a new business coming in. But there is an opportunity to convert these older buildings into housing. I believe housing is important. Many of you don't remember the Shields building over on Maynard Street that now holds 100 apartments maybe or more. That was a jewelry factory. That's been successfully turned over. Some of your older buildings on Union Street, I believe housing would be a great asset there, not only to the people having the ability for low-income housing or affordable housing today, but it would also be a development for downtown, because the way downtown is going to come back is foot traffic. We need foot traffic downtown to make it successful. Thank you.
Well, having worked on the Bliss School in my first term, that was an amazing project to be able to get a developer in after 19 years of that building being abandoned, to be able to get that redeveloped and paying taxes to the city every year. That was a great project. So housing is part of it. Some of these buildings along Union Street, one of the problems is that they're privately owned. And you have to entice the people that own them to either sell them or to renovate them or to reutilize the property in some way. The problem with that is it takes cash. And the city doesn't have that kind of cash, but we need to look in ways that, should the city be in the process of funding that kind of development? Can it? Well, maybe it can, but that's something that we as a group will need to discuss in the future councils. It'd be interesting to see half of Union Street revitalized in a different way, maybe reutilizing those old mill buildings. Maybe not utilizing those mill buildings, but utilizing the property in a different way. That's not my vision. My vision has to be, what are the options that come to me as a counselor? What do I need to vote on? And it'd be fun to use some of those. I've lived in an old mill building, and it was fun. It was cold, but it was fun. And it can happen. But it takes money, and it took a lot of money. And I know I got the condo in that mill building because the original developer went bankrupt because he couldn't afford to do the work. It's an expensive process. We can do it as a council, but it's going to take time and discussions and money. And that's something that we'll have to look at in the future.
I think this is a very interesting question. I drive around the city every day. I drive a school bus for a living, and I drive over 100 miles in the city every day, and I drive past mill buildings every 5 minutes, give or take. And there are many times when I look and ponder and wonder, what is it that we could put in there? I'll be honest, every week I'm asked for a wintertime farmer's market to be put in one of those like they have down in Pawtucket. I think it would be smart as a community to look at our surrounding communities. We're not necessarily unique here in Attleboro that we have a bunch of empty mill buildings. I know we have Pawtucket and other areas, and we should look to them to see how they've effectively utilized those buildings and then figure out ways to use them. We need to think bigger than just Attleboro. Think large, look to other communities, see what they have done, and then see if we could implement some of those wonderful buildings, whether they're apartment complexes, whether they're retail establishments, whether they're a seasonal item location. I think there's plenty of things that we could do with them, and we just need, thank you, we just need to think bigger and plan around it.
I spent my career walking through every building in the city. Some were burning, some were for other reasons, and realistically, the codes have gotten so strict over the years, and to address the question, what can we do about it? It's so difficult to rehab a building today. It costs twice as much as it does a new building. And these buildings present two problems. They present contamination problems, and they present problems of rehabilitation. You've got everything from sprinkler systems to contaminants to Sarah Title III requirements. A lot of the buildings that haven't been touched is because they are contaminated or they have issues that it really would cost more money than it would be to tear the building down. To answer that question, I don't know what you can do. Fall River did some. At the time when the growth was expanding and money was available, a lot of Fall River mills got rehabilitated. We missed that period, and that period is gone. As to what we can do now, I think you're going to have to wait and see what happens. But like Mr. Kirby said, a lot of the landlords realize the expensive process that they would have to go through, so they just kind of let it sit. I'm not sure that at some point in time that would change. But right now, these buildings, although they're eyesores, they're so costly that I think it's going to take a lot more than just talking about it to get it to happen. And I don't see it happening right away.
I'd like to focus the question on what a city councilor can do. And city councils are limited on what they can actually execute. We're not administration. We can't really set policy. That's up to the mayor and the committees that serve the mayor, the commissions. What city councils can do is we can rezone, we can grant tax advantages, and we could provide, we could suggest funding. In the case of old buildings in the city, they are privately owned. I've seen great success with Ralph Helviti on Mechanic Street. That building has been up and running and flying ever since I've been in Attleboro, and he's doing a great job there. Mr. Demers is trying to do the same thing down on South Main. I'd love to see the Texas Instruments building on Forest Street turned into a community resource center, you know, where all the nonprofits could gather together, share in the space, and it would be one stop for people who need those services. But it's true, the renovation costs are very high, starting at $200 a square foot. In building our animal shelter, that's $300 a square foot. And we've got problems with the Swank building that they don't know where the pollution inside that area is coming from. So there's no alternative. It's probably going to have to come down. As a city councilor, all we can do is try to support and encourage the movements that are naturally born inside the city and give them the ordinances that they require so that they can prosper in renovating these old buildings into a new use. And those conclude my comments.
Thank you. The costs, as we've all discussed, it's up there. The safety is what we need to be concerned with some of these buildings. I think we need to vet each and every one of these buildings. To paint with such a broad brush when every building, every mill is different and has its own character, has its own potential flaws. We're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to see what makes sense, when does it make sense. Some of these buildings have historical value. We want to be cognizant of that. But when we think about what can we do, to Mr. Conti's point, there's not, functionality-wise, there's not a lot a councilor can do. But from getting involved and rolling up our sleeves, we can get involved. We can advocate for the people who are interested. We can call up the landlords. We can say, hey, what's going on? What are your intentions here? What can we do to help? And I know it was once said by Ronald Reagan, the scariest words are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. But sometimes it needs a little bit of a collaboration. So when we think about it, we have to look at the costs, safety, and we have to be a little creative. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. So my apologies to everybody involved for missing the opening statement. So we've got some extra time budgeted, but I feel badly about the curveball. I hope John Lackey has half as good a curveball tonight as that was. I feel badly about throwing anybody's rhythm off. So what we'll do is go to opening statements, and if you don't mind, we'll start with you, sir, and just as we've had this, the pattern from before. But feel welcome to, Jack, I guess, use 4 minutes if we've just negotiated 3 minutes for a closing statement. Please.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank both the Sun Chronicle and the Chamber for the work that they did putting this together. I want to thank everybody for turning out today and those who are watching at home. Again, my name is Brian Kirby, and I'm asking for your vote for re-election to City Council for my 6th term on the City Council. I've been here for 10 years, and if we rewind the tape 10 years, the city has changed drastically over the last 10 years. When I first was sitting here learning about the council and then was elected, the city council couldn't get along with the school committee. There may not have been enough money in the budget to make payroll within the last couple of weeks of that first budgetary cycle, right near June. So much has changed within the city. We have a real blue pride, and we saw that at the opening of our field, the new Tozier Cassidy Field, a couple of weeks ago. We have a pride in the city. The city development has gone in the right direction. We've worked on so many different projects. I mentioned the Bliss School in my first term, right through to the animal shelter. We have the Industrial Business Park, the ITC. The Industrial Business Park is almost sold off. We're moving towards that, and it's almost a reality. The ITC project down here in the center is going to be a true development, many stories. It's going to dwarf the Christopher Heights building. So much that's going to go into it. And we already have a right of first refusal on the property across the street. The governor's going to come down for the opening in a couple of weeks of our new bus shelter. So much has gone on. Budgetarily, we've been paying down debt for all these years. We've been very cautious about the bonding that has gone on, so that now we're able to pay our bills. We're able to pay cash for most of the bills that we pay. When we go out and we buy items, we've even been able to pay cash for a $350,000 fire truck rather than paying interest on it over years. These are all decisions that have come down, and we've worked on them together. No counselor does anything independently. We have to have at least 5 friends with us at all times, if not 7 or 8 or 9 friends, to be able to get anything passed. No counselor does anything in this horseshoe independently. We do it as a group, and we have to do it as a group. And I've been very lucky, I've been very proud to be able to build the relationships that I've needed to be able to foster the projects through, to be able to go to the mayor's office and any one of the department heads and learn about the projects, learn about their issues, to be able to make the right decisions for the city. I've been really proud to be in one of these seats, and I know I don't own these seats. These are your seats, and you've been kind enough to give me a seat for the last 10 years, and I appreciate that. I ask for your vote for November 5th. Thank you.
I wanted to take a moment to say thank you again to the Chamber and the Sun Chronicle for hosting us here tonight. And personally, I would like to just take a moment to thank my family for going along this very interesting political journey with me over the last several months. So I appreciate them very much. As a political newcomer, it's important for all of you to know that I feel that local municipal government is the most important form of government. All the decisions that are made at this level, at this U, will affect our quality of life as Attleboro residents immediately. And it's very important. It's a very important job. I am at council on Tuesday nights, sitting over there, watching, learning. I'm doing my homework in an effort to expand my knowledge and understanding so that I can have a seamless transition into a seat at council when I'm elected on November 5th. I am hopeful that I will be able to serve you to the best of my abilities. My greatest civic joy comes from utilizing my passion and talents to enhance the quality of life for those of us that call Attleboro home. It is my hope that my service to the community will empower and encourage and inspire all of us to take a more active role how we shape our Attleboro. With that, I'm asking you to allow me the honor of being your voice on council. I'm asking for your trust, and I'm asking for you to vote for lucky number 7 on the ballot on November 5th. Thank you very much.
What she said. Ah.
You're not number 7. You're number 6.
I know, I'm number 6. Good evening. Again, I want to thank everyone for allowing me to say my piece. My name is Ron Churchill. I'm a candidate for council at large. I've been a city employee since 1967. I retired in 2010. I've sat before this council for 26 years. None of these people were here. And I appreciate what they do. I'm asking you to consider me for an experience as being a legislator. I have raised my family here, 4 children, John, Julie, Jamie, Janice. They all went to the school system. Since my retirement, I've volunteered at the YMCA and also the Attleboro High School. And in my career as a firefighter, chief, etc., I have done a lot of things for the city, experienced a lot of things in the city. I understand how the city works. I was also a police officer, and in my time when I wasn't the chief, on my times off, I was a substitute teacher. I worked for the recreation department, and I've experienced almost every department in the city. I understand how things work. I obviously am not a seated politician as these other gentlemen are, and I would have to learn some of the things that they've learned, but I think I have the desire and the drive, and I think I have the ambition to do what's right. And I'd appreciate your vote in November. Thank you very much.
I want to thank the United Regional Chamber of Commerce and the Sun Chronicle and ask the question, what would happen if there was no forum? Because if you hadn't stepped up and done this, the people of Attleboro wouldn't have benefited from this discourse. I'm Richard Conti, and I'm seeking re-election based on my accomplishments as a councilor and as a citizen of Attleboro. And I want you to go to my website, www.councilorconti.org, and look at the videos and read the Sun Chronicle articles that I've posted there for you to see on what I've accomplished both inside the chambers of this honorable body and for the private organizations in the city that have been very active. The next term in the city council has some very interesting challenges facing the council. We're right now trying to shake loose the dog ordinance that I introduced last December, and it's 26 pages of changes to how we manage the dogs in the city. There's a marijuana dispensary ordinance that's in front of legal review that is going to come down for a vote sometime in the next council. We've started discussing technology in the chambers right here, looking at iPads and helping us be more decisive in our discourse. And I'm hoping that that'll spread to more citizen access of technology through our website. Coming up next year, we're going to have a full-scale capital improvement plan review, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any bonding available. That's going to be very interesting. There's a graffiti ordinance that's been waiting in the wings, and that's been researched, and that may come up in the next council. And one of my pets is the repairing of the fats, oil, and grease ordinance, which I think we made a mistake so now it's time to correct that ordinance. On all these issues, you can express your opinions to me through my website, www.councilorconti.org. And you can tell me what you think, or you can come to one of my office hours. I've had one every first Wednesday of every month for the last 4 years. And if I'm reelected, I'll have one the first Wednesday of every month for the next 2 years. I think the next term, the councils are going to be facing some economic challenges. I don't think they're going to go away. And I think that we're going to be getting more pressure based on what I've heard out on the street of citizens asking us to keep that checkbook closed. The city, I think, needs to really improve the policy of using technology to inform the residents of meetings, agendas, minutes, and provide more open, transparency view of the networking that's going on inside the city. But you tell me what you want. Go to www.councilorconti.org, tell me your opinion, and I'll listen to it. I return every phone call, every email, and visit every house. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I as well would like to thank the Sun Chronicle and the Chamber for hosting this tonight. I'd also like to thank all the candidates. This is what it's about, a healthy exchange of ideas. Over the last few years, Attleboro has seen a lot of progress. And we talked about the ITC. In a few days, we're going to be dedicating the Intermodal Transportation Center. Across from the ITC, we're going to have Renaissance Station, which is going to combine downtown living with retail shops. By next year, we will have a new animal shelter. We recently saw the completion of the Attleboro High School track and field. And in September, the industrial business park was sold, and we're soon going to see a new sports complex come in. I think that's progress we can all be proud of. I've supported these projects because they'll help our community and our economy thrive. I'm asking you for another term on the City Council to continue the progress we've made together. Over the last 2 years, we've made a lot of progress. I'm dedicated to growing our local economy. If more businesses invest in Attleboro's future, this is going to help reduce the tax burden and create jobs. I've worked hard to help move Attleboro forward while advocating for locally owned businesses. Recently, I've spoken with 3 different businesses who are going to be starting up in the city over the next few months. They'll all bring something different, something fun, something exciting to the community. Separate businesses, separate paths, but they all have one goal, and that's to invest in Attleboro's future. Attleboro's future is bright, but we have to stay the course. We have to continue to cultivate an environment where businesses will choose to invest in Attleboro. That will relieve some of the tax burden and create jobs. It's not a city council's role to create jobs. A city council's role is to create the environment to let the business owner run their business, grow their business, and that growth is what's going to lead to job creation. During my first term, I introduced legislation to review how we can streamline processes for businesses starting up in the city. And while reviewing the city ordinances to continue to encourage business growth across the city. I also created and spearheaded Attleboro Restaurant Week. Recently, we celebrated the 2nd annual event, which encouraged residents to eat locally. I'm also going to remain committed to constituent services. I'm going to continue to be your voice on the Attleboro City Council. In my first term, I held neighborhood meetings. I've held monthly constituent hours at a different small business across the city because I wanted to stay connected with you. We only have one voice, but there's 42,000 voices out there, and that's up to us to listen to. I've long felt government works best when government listens more than we talk. Our first priority as an elected official is to listen to the residents and act from there. On November 5th, I respectfully ask for your vote. My name is Jay Delisio, and I'm running for Attleboro City Council at large. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Peter Blair, and I've sat on this side of the council for the last 14 years. I think I brought common sense, which isn't too common nowadays, to this council when it's been in a turmoil, when there's been tough decisions to make. I've made my opinion known, whether it be out here or in a closed-door session. You see what you get, or you get what you see, as I sit here. I've been boisterous on a number of occasions, but my heart belongs to this city. I have 2 great children who are educated here. I have 4 super grandchildren. I want to see, and I want to be here the next 2 years to see the projects that we have working come to fruition and finish. I want to be part of it. I've been part of it for the people of Attleboro. I've been a public servant. I haven't been a politician. I'm here to help. I've always been open, and I've been accessible, and I will continue on those roles. I thank you for letting me serve for 14 years, and I'm asking you for 2 more so I can finish the projects that we've started that are about to make this city a greater city than it is today, tomorrow. Thank you.
How about a hand for all our candidates? You have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bond, for coming and joining us this evening.
My pleasure.
Being a great facilitator.
Class dismissed? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Sure, Brian.
Well done. Sorry if I screwed up that beginning. Nice to meet you as well. Thank you. Thank you.
It's about less than half a million dollars that goes into residential each year. This year, I think it's done